guys will come in and try to change the sound of the band. And it's not really okay. It's like if Zet's going to go and use this kind of vocal tone that has its influences from Bon Scott or whatever, but he's going to be singing on the notes and have the timing really excellent, then we're going to work with that. And we're going to see if we can double it. Because Zet doesn't know how to double.
Well, I never did it before. We did, though.
So that's my point. So I saw that, whoa, he can do this.
Well, because
so then you work with that.
I was the type of thing, I was the type of person that I memorize exactly everything I do every time I do it. I know everywhere where my little hills and valleys, I guess you call them. So even when we did Pleasures of the Flesh, Doug, it was the same way. We were doubling back, even up to Fabulous Disaster.
Yeah.
I'm still doubling on it reel to reel, and I had to know that. But the thing was about the legacy demos, I already had a year with those songs, you know what I mean? I knew them backwards, frontwards, and I knew how I sung them and what parts I got, really
that was excellent.
And,
I saw that for what it was worth. I can't remember as clear now because it's a long time ago. But
85.
What's right in front of you see it, and I don't care if it's 85 or 95 or whatever, but, I saw that. Same thing with Alex, Alex had like some really interesting ideas for melody and his ideas about using volume swells and this and that. And I had a lot of experience doing that kind of, working with that kind of sound, recording that kind of thing before. So
Alone in the Dark was wow.
And you did a nice little arpeggio and all that.
Yeah,
That was really cool. And so I thought, hey man, this is really great. I'm not going to get in the way of any of this. There's no reason. All we can maybe do is we can maybe possibly
polish it up a little bit.
Yeah, maybe the philosophy of less is more and that kind of thing. That plays out really well.
I do agree with that.
So, you do things like that. And it's just all about working with what you have in front of you and making it shine, rather than try to change it into something it's not.
Sure.
Which is, a big mistake.
You did the Mordred demo too, didn't you?
I did one of them. They had they did Sever and Splice, I think, and a couple of, I have the demos still. I have the tape still. I can't remember exactly what we recorded. They were just working on new material, and that was another one of those things where I just dragged all the equipment across the hallway because they were down the hall. So that was easy.
Hey, Doug will do us. Doug will take care of us.
Yeah. Alexis called me up for that one too.
So then talk about how you left Control and started Heathen.
Well, Control kind of fell apart. Ed was, as crazy as he was and all into his punk rock influences and insane singing style, he was over at Berkeley taking law school classes and learning how to become a lawyer. And that's what he was doing. And it got to the point where he had to drop the band to concentrate only on the attorney stuff, which is exactly what led to the demise of Control. So when he did that, I said, okay, well, got to do something else. So at that point, Carl Sacco was already calling me and leaving me these outrageous messages on my answering machine. And back then we had answering machines, and we used to leave crazy messages. Yeah, and Carl would call up and say, "When are you gonna come down? We gotta try to do something. We gotta get this going on." And I go, "Well, yeah, but I'm still doing this." "Yeah, but you still gotta come down."
Did he have anybody else?
Well, he had Lee.
Okay, so he had Lee.
Yeah, Lee was sitting at home on his bed writing riffs, and Carl lived next door. They used to live, amazingly enough, next door to each other, a long, long time ago, and that was when Lee was still in high school.
Yeah,
but so then they were playing a show with Jim Sanguinetti on guitar. So it's Lee, Jim, and Carl. And Sam Kress on vocals.
Oh, really?
And
Sam
so
and
so we heard about the show, and I wanted to go see it because Carl wouldn't, he'd left all these outrageous messages on my machine. I go, okay, I got to go down and see what the noise is all about. So me and Ian went down, Ian Callan from Rampage Radio, and checked out the band. And
Where'd you go? Do you remember what the show was?
It's at MAB, at the MAB.
Boubet.
And they didn't have a bass player. It was hilarious.
Was that with Legacy?
I don't remember. Maybe.
I think we were on that gig. Yes, we were. It was Legacy, Heathen, and I think Death Angel. Are you sure?
Heathen was too small. They weren't really even a band.
No, they were
because they didn't have a bass player.
They opened for us on that.
It's maybe possible, but I don't recall that. I don't recall you guys being on the bill.
The flyers flying in my head.
I just have intense Legacy memories at Ruthie's.
Yeah.
That's what I
we
really
talk
strong.
about. We talk about that from time to time on this show.
Anyway, so I thought, okay, Carl, this thing might have some potential. The guitar player is like, got some interesting riffs, and it's definitely metal. Because at that point I really wanted to do metal. I didn't want to do so much progressive stuff. And at that point, I had lots of stacks, and so it was time to start blasting.
That was metal. You had to have stacks.
Oh well, yeah. If you're like anybody, any kind of
you came in from our era.
Fuck, I'll never forget the first time I saw Van Halen. With nine stacks at Day on the Green. That was the first time anybody had seen Eddie actually play, and I was just completely blown away because he had nothing but he tore all the Tolex off all his Marshall cabs. He had 9 stacks. I think it was 9. Maybe it was 8. Whatever it was.
3 high.
2 high. So normal stacks, slants, and bottoms. And at the very edge, there was the giant bomb. And then as you go around over to the other edge, there was 12 Marshall heads with 2 double fans blasting the tubes.
Damn.
I mean, I'm telling you, I never saw anything like it. It was the craziest thing I'd ever seen. And I never forgot that. It's from that day on, it was like stacks. How do we get more? We got to get more. Well, these aren't real Marshalls. But they look right. We'll just tear all the Tolex off and then we'll have more stacks. We'll have more cabs.
It was like, I think 2 years ago we played in Japan and we had 31 on stage,
awesome.
31 cabinets.
Awesome.
And it would just look like the wall. And it's like, then who needs production when you have 31 Marshall stack cabinets on there, piled 3 high, 5 wide this way, 5 wide that way.
Yeah. But I mean, that was just the way it was back then. It was all about excess.
Exactly.
And insanity,
excess.
And I mean,
look at all the drummers had to have roto toms and this toms and this toms and
exactly
the cages and stuff on those things. They were just so elaborate.
Cages, and then they got upside
100 fucking cymbals.
And yeah, I mean, like the Neil Peart thing with all the percussion and all that stuff. It was all sorts of incredible added stuff that you didn't really need. I mean, nowadays, people just get by using a double kick pedal. You don't
exactly.
even. It's
seen that before.
People are just like learning that there are easier ways. So you don't have to go completely crazy.
Well, the whole thing about the double kick pedal, I'll only go there for a second. Both drums should not sound the same. Kick drums, you know what I mean? One should be deeper than the other. So that's the whole idea of the kick drum. I don't think they should both sound the same. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to actually do a recording, it's kind of interesting to play around with the different tones.
Exactly.
They should be close, but they should not be exactly the same.
So now you have gone and seen Heathen, and do you know that there's an offer there for you to be the guitar player, or if you can just go, fuck this, I can step into this if I want to? How did it go down?
Oh, it was just Carl calling me up saying, hey, man, we got to do something. So like.
But you said you went and saw the band.
Yeah, because Carl kept calling.
And they had another guitar player, though.
Yeah.
They had Lee and somebody else.
Yeah, but apparently they
But they weren't happy with the other guy.
I guess. I mean.
So how soon after that gig, and Sam was singing, right? So how soon after that did you join the band? Was it like right away or?
It was close. It was. I just said. I think it went like, you guys should come down to the studio. I was still in the control studio. I took over paying the rental on it myself. And I don't know, we just started playing songs, Lee came in and I said, what do you got? And I had some stuff, I had the Death by Hanging song from.
And so then when did you like actually know you were in the band, you know what I mean? And I mean, did they come in? Did you play with them like maybe 2 or 3 or 4 rehearsals, or?
Well, yeah. I mean, I had them come down to the old control studio, the rehearsal room.
Did they have their own room yet, or were they just kind of?
No, they didn't have anything. They were just. I think they got into trouble for smashing up and destroying their last one because Sam
sounds like the time.
Yeah, I mean, Sam was pretty good at getting all completely destroyed on. I mean, everybody drink and get completely
everybody
crazy
was
and smash everything up.
Fucking 1980.
I mean,
we're talking 85 here, right?
Yeah,
late 85.
Smashing everything up was the norm.
Okay.
So it'll also get you kicked out of your rehearsal space. So apparently that's what happened to them. And so I invited them down to ours. We hadn't been kicked out yet. But, I always managed that because, I was trying to record stuff and doing, band stuff. I mean, I was always in a band. So as soon as one band was over, I was already set up for the next one. So I got, I got Carl and Lee to come in, and that And after it became pretty clear that we should try to find a bass player and just keep this going on. I mean, it was like kind of a no-brainer. I mean, nobody said, "Oh, well, you're officially the guy." It was like,
just kept going. But
yeah, it was just like it was officially like this is what we're doing now. That's all it was. And that's when I asked Alexis again to recommend a bass player, and he recommended Eric Wong. So we got Eric to play bass, and then we were trying to figure out what the hell to do about a singer. And because I came from a melodic kind of, sort of an eye on the commercial sense, I was suggesting a melodic style singer like what we ultimately selected, which was Dave White. Back then he was Dave Godfrey, but he was out of blend.
I can't keep ever up with that. If it's either White or Godfrey, I just call him Dave White Godfrey.
Yeah, but anyhow, but Lee wanted somebody like Paul Bailoff. So there was we went back and forth with that one. We weren't sure what the hell to do. I just said, well, you get something like Paul, you're going to run in, it's going to be a really limited market. You're going to want to try to break through and have more success if you try to have a little bit more melodic style singing voice. Something that can actually be somewhat more accessible.
Right.
So that I kind of pushed for that. And then in the end, we took Dave anyway. And Lee was still never really sure. Which years later, we wound up using Paul Bailoff for a little while.
I did notice I was going to get to that.
But that didn't work out for the same reason that it probably wouldn't have worked out in the very beginning.
Because Bailoff's a fabulous disaster.
Well, old Paul, he's what he is,
Right, I know. I love him. We love him.
It's a high maintenance kind of situation that is hard to talk bad about because the good is so solid and so important that you don't want to get into the bad aspects of it. The pros, the cons. The cons, outweigh the pros after a while. So there's that. And anyhow, so we had a nucleus of a new band, complete with vocals and Eric on bass. And then we started playing shows. And first show I think we played was at the MAB. And we played a bunch of stuff we played some old Control songs. We played the Death by Hang song, which is mine from Control. I had a song I wrote with the Exo guys on tour called Goblin's Blade. Dave wrote some lyrics about goblins. And then there was some other stuff that Lee had, Open the Grave and Save the Skull, and there's a bunch of other songs.
Did you record the demo when you guys went to demo? Did you do the recording?
Oh, yeah, we did the recording. I did the recording.
You did the recording.
Yeah, all my gear.
Well, you did do it on your gear, so you didn't go back to say up to...
No, we didn't. We didn't go the legacy route.
You didn't go the legacy route.
It was discussed, but it was expensive. We didn't have any money.
I know this. Believe me, I know this. We all put in our chip. People don't understand. They look at $1,700 now as nothing, but 1985. I mean, that was a
lot. We were
money.
just
you could record a record for that. Come on, almost. So
I mean, just having stacks was brutal. I always wondered how Eddie did it. Like, how did he get 18 cabinets? Jesus Christ!
And get tone out of them.
Yeah, I mean, it was insane. All those heads. I mean, now those heads are worth a fortune.
Sure they are.
Real plexis.
The tube.
Holy shit! But back then they were cheaper, and so
because that's what the sign of the times of the technology was. I mean, that was it.
Yeah, but that was an amazing era.
And so, how long before did you guys? Okay, so you recorded a demo, and what time are we talking? Did you guys finally get in the studio to record that demo, the first Heathen demo? 86.
I guess it was 86.
It's
85.
So I wasn't even in Exodus yet then, probably.
No. Well, your debut in Exodus was when we played with Exodus at the farm.
Right. I was going to get to that.
I remember that very well.
Yeah.
And I made Tony Isabella put us on that gig because
I like how you made her put you on.
No, I'm sure she'd argue with me, but that's okay. We always argue. It's normal.
We did an episode on the show about the farm, my first show on the vault already, but
that was
a lot of fun for me. Very nervous show.
It was for everyone. I think it was.
Paul was such a big icon. In
end of an era, beginning of a new era, and how is it even going to go down? Is there going to be riots?
The first night a little bit. People bought full cans of beer to throw at me. I mean, unopened cans of beer, and hucked them at me because that's how the farm sold them. Really? Yes.
So how'd that go? I don't recall you getting hurt.
I didn't get hurt, but they hit me a couple of times, and I remember, I don't know where it is for my life. I wish I could find it. I had a VHS tape of the first show, and the first night it looks like it's like choo choo choo. I mean, coming constantly. It was like every 10 seconds there was a bear coming at me or something coming at me. Something
crazy.
So, second night it wasn't so bad. It wasn't anything actually, but the people were reacting. They were hurt. They were shocked because Paul was such a big icon.
I know,
and I agreed. I mean, fuck. I mean, they asked me to replace this. Of course, Exodus was so to me they were the ultimate band.
Yeah, I mean, it was in a very interesting time. I mean, Exodus played a role in the whole Heathen thing too, because Lee was so influenced by everything that Exodus did, and a lot of the early stuff that he was writing was
very much so
very similar to Exodus stuff, and I kind of said that's a little bit too much. Why don't we change this here, do this, that, put some melodic vocals on it and change it around? It won't sound the same. And it's like, oh, I don't know. And then, and that's what we did. And that's why that first record sounds different. But back to that show, that was a crazy time because we really wanted to get on that show and support, because we tried to do everything and support Exodus, as much as possible. But then there was this big changing in the guard. And it was crazy. I'll tell you something. You don't know this. I'm going to break something right now. It's one of those stones. I was talking to Wayne the other day about turning over stones. I think the moment when you got chosen for Exodus was when we were on tour. I had the Legacy demo with me, and we were playing all sorts of different shit. And it was a very interesting moment. It was when Rick looked at me and Gary looked at me, and there wasn't anything said. And we knew. And I knew what they were thinking. Uh-huh. And I knew, and I think there was probably something discussed, but I don't recall what was discussed, but I definitely remember it was on that tour, and I had that goddamn thing with me, and so I played a role in it somehow by having it there. I mean, not that they didn't know who you were, but that moment was a special moment, and it was, for whatever it was a historical moment, if you will.
Wow.
And it's kind of
only on the vault right here. That's why we chew it. That's why we chew it up.
There you are. You got it. So I was there.
That's amazing. That's what I want to hear.
Shotgun in the van, and Gary and Rick were sitting in the back, in the middle seat, and they were blown away. Rick was particularly blown away.
Yeah, Rick used to, after Legacy shows, and it was funny. He would come up and praise me, or he'd do this type of number bowed me, and I go, "What are you doing? You play in the greatest band in the Bay Area, don't you?"
Yeah.
To me.
Well, they were looking.
There was speculation, Doug. I'm not. I'll be honest. For a year before I joined, a lot of people came up to me and go, "I hear you're going to replace Bailoff." Many, many times. I mean, I'd hear it once a night at a gig for a year before it went down. You know what I mean? And my take was I'm really happy in the band that I'm playing in right now. They're great. It's a great band. But if this band, because I mean, all of us were. Legacy was, we all started our bands because of Exodus, not necessarily Metallica. We wanted to be that way. I mean, I know what Lee's thinking. You know what I mean? I know that.
I didn't start my bands that way.
Curse of the Legions of Death is
because I was a little older, and we were in the Y&T circuit, kind of,
Well, I mean, I listened to that as well.
And then Exodus came around, and it was wow, they're cool, they're fun.
Fuck, this is fun.
I mean, Deliver Us from Evil, and Then Or None. Those songs were really cool.
I remember when I first saw him, I'm like, did he just say kick in your face and rape and murder your wife?
Yeah, that was epic.
Did he just say
I loved it. It was all in great fun.
Oh my God.
All in great fun and all
totally.
excellent.
And Bailoff was up there. If there's Poser standing next to you right now, he's got his died, but you can just kill him for me right now. Kill, kill. And the whole fucking crowd would be yelling, kill, 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 kill. It was just
It was insane. I'd sit there on the mixing board, because I did all the live sound for all those early shows. And I'd sit there and I was like, wow, this is insane. I can't believe this is actually going on.
I know you played on the record release show. The night that you played with Exodus on the record release show with Control, did you do the sound for them that night? Because I know you opened and then Megadeth and then Exodus. Did you play and then run out to the soundboard and do sound for Exodus that night? Do you remember?
I don't think so.
You don't?
I would remember. And I forget exactly why. There was a transition point where I stopped doing sound for them for a bunch of different reasons. I think they were trying out other sound guys. I think they got Mark Whitaker or somebody to do sound.
Maybe I think
that's kind of like what went down.
Maybe he did
because they took.
That's right. I think Mark did do our sound for when I first joined at that time.
Yeah, although I don't remember exactly. I just know that I didn't do it.
Now, you're shopping. You got this demo done with Heathen, and you're shopping it around. Do you have a lot of label interest, or is one certain label coming at you, and who did you eventually, end up with?
Back in those days, there were 3 labels that were
Metal Blade
important. There was Metal Blade, there was Combat, and the Relativity Combat thing.
Music for Nations over in Europe.
And then there was the Roadrunner stuff.
Sure.
And the Roadrunner stuff, their deal wasn't as good as the Combat deal. And Slagle, for some reason, I don't even remember anything.
Because we were label mates for a minute there.
On the Combat deal, when that actually went through. So I think between those 3, there was really only 3. I mean, there wasn't, like, Noise didn't get involved.
Right. You had no majors at the time looking at you.
And no majors.
Yeah,
not at that time. But majors generally didn't look at metal bands.
Not that like that. Not yet.
Not
anyway, a couple of years later they started to, but not yet. So you went with Combat. What year did you sign, and then what year did you guys start recording that record?
It would be either late 85 or early 86.
Early 86.
We recorded the record in 86.
When was the release of Breaking the Silence?
I think it was like... I can't remember. I think it was recently, though. I think it was...
86 or 87?
No, I mean, I know it was released in 86, but I don't know what month.
Okay, so in 86 sometime.
Yeah.
And talk about the recording of that, because you actually had a very famous man come in and produce that record.
Yeah, that was unusual.
And talk about the release. No, you can say it now. I mean, people are... Tell them who produced that album.
Ronnie Montrose got called in.
Ronnie Montrose, that's right.
Our manager at the time, Steve Klausman, knew Ronnie and was managing Ronnie Montrose, and knew that Ronnie was sort of doing what I was doing with the early, garage-style thrash bands.
Uh-huh.
He was producing and recording as much stuff as he could. And so Ronnie's name came to the table, and I thought, wow, that's interesting. That's a guitar guy, maybe we can learn a lot, And, Dave thought he was, interesting sounding. At that point, we didn't know what was going to actually happen. And Lee, I don't remember Lee even having an opinion. And I think Carl, I don't really recall. At that point, we also had Yaz in the band. Eric had stepped out, and we got Yaz in. But I don't really recall too much about what the other guys were thinking. But I knew what I thought, and I thought, well, that's interesting. That could be really cool. Well, it didn't really work out as cool as I thought it was going to work out. There was already there was a basic misunderstanding of what metal was supposed to sound like, and there was too many other great metal bands whose styles we wanted to kind of get involved with and kind of make a similar
tone-wise and sound-wise,
drum tone-wise.
And Ronnie wasn't having it, huh?
Ronnie didn't really know it. He came from another planet. He came from the AOR planet, Sure. I remember Ronnie coming in one day saying, oh, well, this is a really cool tool. We can use this in the vocals. And I'm thinking, damn, we're already at the vocals? We don't even have the guitar tones yet. I'm already questioning the whole thing, And it was one of those things that Jefferson Starship used. It was like really important to use that. It was like some outboard gear, something. I don't remember anymore. It was like it's one of those things that comes and goes and obsoletes itself pretty fast. Anyhow, so and I remember that, and it was basically a disconnect with Ronnie's production style and what the band wanted, and so that's why there's mixed results from the band about the recording and how it ultimately turned out. That's not what went down with the fans, though. The fans find that first record incredibly important.
Yes, they do.
Even more important than pretty much all the others. I
agree.
The second record is pretty important, too. But the bottom line, for those 2 records, for some reason, just recently, we played a small tour. And the guys who we were playing with came from South America, and they were like, "Oh, wow, it was you! You played on Breaking the Silence," and they knew all the songs, all the lyrics. It's like, really? How'd that happen? Well, I don't know. One thing leads to another. Things, tape trading or CD, maybe it's YouTube. I don't know what it is. But, that thing, for less or more, whatever it is, winds up being a stable mate of that era of Bay Area thrash metal. And
Definitely.
That's cool.
I agree.